All right, guys, so let's do some more examples. This is your assignment for the day. The slide numbers on there are going to be a little bit off, like there's like slides 11 and then 17, etc. if you see it right here. This is part of a larger assignment that I've taken some slides out of, so you don't have to do the whole thing. So there are 5 slides for you to do. I'm going to do 2 of them for you right now, and then you will do 3 on your own. So I figured I would show you some examples just to get some more of them in. But as always, if you have questions, let me know. So the first 3 slides you'll be doing, you are just balancing the equations. So you're typing in the coefficients that will help balance the equation here. And then you are typing in the name of the compound or the element. Now, this is a review of last unit, naming ionic and covalent compounds. So just make sure if you are unsure of how to do that at this point, you go back and review. So the first thing I'm going to do here is type in magnesium, because that's what that is. So magnesium plus oxygen will yield, this is magnesium oxide, because it's a metal and a nonmetal, so it's ionic, so we don't use the prefixes here. So we've got magnesium plus oxygen will yield magnesium oxide. So now let's go ahead and balance. Since I don't have much of a visual field right here, I'm going to do my inventory list on my left for my reactants and then my inventory list on my right for my products. But of course, you can either do this, you could do it on your computer if you have like a paint or, you know, an annotation slide, or you could even do it on, I think you can annotate on Google Slides, but honestly the easiest thing to do would be to have a pen and paper or pencil and paper near you. Okay, so I've got magnesium and oxygen, and then magnesium and oxygen. Okay, I'm doing this just like I did in our notes, but just on the left and the right versus right next to each other. So I have 1 magnesium, 2 oxygen, because magnesium has this assumed 1 subscript and oxygen has the 2. And then for magnesium and oxygen, there's no coefficient, there's no subscripts, so these are each 1. Okay, so now let's balance. Our magnesiums are balanced, but I have 2 oxygens on my left-hand side and 1 on my right-hand side. So now I know that I'm going to need to basically get my oxygens on my right-hand side up, right? Because remember, we can't go down, we can only go up. So I start to find the ones that need to be balanced where they go up. Okay, so I know I need at least 2 oxygen, so I know I'm going to put at least a 2 over here. Now, because I've added a coefficient, we're going to make sure we add as we go. So make sure that we change our elements as we go to make sure we're balancing correctly. So now because I added that 2 coefficient, I'm going to have 2 magnesium and 2 oxygen. Okay, so I've got 2 magnesium and 2 oxygen. Our oxygens are balanced now, but the magnesium is unbalanced. So now we have 1 on the left and 2 on the right, but this is an easy fix. Because magnesium's by himself, I can add a coefficient of 2, and now they're balanced. So we have 2 magnesium plus O2 will yield 2 magnesium oxide. Okay, so I'm going to delete the drawing and then I'm going to just type it in. Okay, so now I can type in my 2 magnesium, my 2 magnesium oxide, and you don't have to type in anything if there's not a coefficient, but I'm just going to type in 1 here just to type it in so that we know there's 1 oxygen gas molecule. Okay, so now let's do the bottom one. So here we have iron plus, this is hydrogen chloride. That's not in your naming rule because we didn't talk about naming acids, but that's okay. Just take my word for it. And then this is going to be, we have FeCl2, which is iron. We know that iron is a transition metal, and we know that his charge is 2 from that charge on the chlorine. So this is iron 2 chloride. Okay, so I got them named. So let's do our inventory list. Okay, So we have iron, and I just typically go in the order that it is on the reactant side. Hydrogen and chlorine. Okay, so iron, hydrogen, and chlorine, we do separate them out because we do need each individual atom to be balanced. So we have iron, hydrogen, and chlorine. Okay, so on my left-hand side, I have one iron, one hydrogen, and one chlorine. On my product side, I have one iron, two chlorine, and two hydrogen. Okay, now right off the bat, I notice that this is not balanced, right? Because I have one iron, one hydrogen, one chlorine, and then I have one iron, two hydrogen, and two chlorine. Okay, so I have to figure out how to balance this equation to get them all balanced. Now, right off the bat, I can see that my hydrogen and my chlorine both need to go up, right? Because it can't go down, so I got to go up. So I have to get it to at least 2. Okay, it could go up beyond that, but I know at the very least I got to get those to 2. So we're going to go ahead and add a 2 coefficient to my HCl. Okay, so now let me go ahead and readjust since I've added the coefficient. Now I've got 2 hydrogen and I've got 2 chlorine, because remember that coefficient applies to both the hydrogen and the chlorine. So now I have 2 hydrogen and 2 chlorine. Now let's take a look again. So now we have 1 iron, 2 hydrogen on each side, and 2 chlorine on each side. So that's perfect. That is balanced. So the only coefficient we had to add was the 2 for the HCl. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this drawing. I'm just going to add it here. So 2. And then again here for the 1s, you can add the 1s, or you can just delete the text box. It doesn't matter if you don't have anything there. It's assumed that it is 1. Okay, nothing there. We're assuming it's 1 for both coefficients and for our subscripts. Okay, so that is balanced. So now that I've done those examples and you have your examples from your notes, you are going to do slides 2 and 3 on your own. And then slide 4 and 5 is a little bit different. So these 2 slides have a, they go ahead and have a formula or an equation here for you, and you have to balance it, but then these boxes here are the coefficients, and you're going to drag the correct set of coefficients. So like this 1 here means 1, 2 means 2, 1 is 1, 1 is 1. Okay, that's what these numbers mean. So these are the coefficients of each of the elements / compounds in the formula. Okay, so let's do this one, and then you guys will just do one of these on your own. So let me make my inventory list. We've got S, O, K, and H. And then S, O, K, and H. All right, now here we have to be a little bit careful because we have oxygen in multiple compounds. So do we see there's an oxygen here and an oxygen here, and then oxygen here and oxygen here? We have to make sure we're adding them up correctly. So we've got 1 sulfur on the left. We've got 1 sulfur on the right. We have 2, 3 oxygen on the left. And we have 3, 4 oxygen on the right. Then we have 1 potassium on the left, 2 potassium on the right, 1 hydrogen on the left, and 2 hydrogen on the right. Okay, now how do we balance this thing? Because this one looks a little bit complicated. but it's actually going to be hopefully pretty simple, okay? So I'm going to start with my metal here. So we have 2 potassium on the right, and we only have 1 on the left. So that's where I'm going to start. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a 2 right here and see how this helps me balance out. So now we've got 2 potassium, 2 oxygen, and 2 hydrogen, okay? But we got to make sure that we are updating as we go along. So now our potassium is 2. Our hydrogen is 2. And now our oxygen is 4 because we added an extra 1 to this one. So 2 times 2 or 2 times 1 for the oxygen is 2, plus 2 is 4. And now when we wrote it out, it looked like it might be a little bit complicated, but all it took was 1 coefficient to balance out. So we've got 1 sulfur, 4 oxygen, 2 potassium, and 2 hydrogen. That is a balanced equation, baby. So that 2 in front of the potassium hydroxide is all we needed. So your coefficients are 1, 2, 1, 1. So all you have to do for this one is take the correct coefficients and drag it to the box. So 1, 2, 1, 1. So we did the first and third slide together. You guys will be doing 2 and 3 where you balance on your own. And then the 5th slide, same thing as this one. You balance it and then you just drag and drop the correct coefficients. If you find you're having trouble, please let me know. I will add an additional practice video from YouTube for you guys. Try to find one that does a good job of going over balancing reaction examples. But again, if you have any questions, let me know.